In a quiet place, making a sound means death, creating a tense atmosphere. However, the setting in this movie is even more horrifying. If you open your eyes outdoors, you'll be compelled to find ways to end your life. This is definitely a hell-level survival challenge. Pregnant Anna had just finished her checkup at the hospital when she saw a woman repeatedly banging her head against the glass. Although a nurse quickly intervened, the woman's eyes were filled with a chilling indifference to life and death. Terrified, Anna hurriedly ran out of the hospital. The car hadn't even started when a truck crashed into a car on the roadside. She and her sister immediately thought of the recent news. Millions of people abroad had committed suicide due to mental disorders. Could this strange illness be spreading here? As they were talking, the sister driving the car started to lose focus and suddenly slammed the accelerator, crashing into a car on the roadside. Anna hadn't even had time to celebrate surviving when she saw her sister, who had gotten out of the car early, walking straight towards an oncoming truck. The streets were filled with people running in all directions. In a daze, Anna was knocked down. A kind long-haired woman was about to help her when she suddenly froze and then rushed into a burning car. Anna was so terrified that she doubted her own existence until Jack, who was passing by, helped her up and they escaped into a nearby house. Many survivors had already gathered here. The bald man with a gun said that the long-haired woman was his wife. Anna lowered her eyes silently, unsure how to respond. Everyone was checking their phones while watching the TV news. This strange suicide disease had spread nationwide. People were discussing and concluded that staying indoors would keep them safe. Jack urged everyone to close all windows, but it couldn't stop the spread of panic. At this moment, there was a rapid knock on the door. Jack, against everyone's advice, opened it. A blindfolded pregnant woman walked in, bringing more information. The streets outside were filled with corpses, and only by covering one's eyes could one avoid harm. She is about to give birth soon and urgently needs to find supplies. This reminded everyone that the food here is also insufficient, and they will all have to go out sooner or later. At this moment, the homeowner had an idea. There are cameras installed around the house. They can use the surveillance to observe the outside situation. If this method works, they can explore more areas. The homeowner decided to try it himself. For safety, they tied his hands. After everyone left the room and closed the door, the homeowner turned on the computer monitor. The surveillance footage seemed normal. He kept encouraging himself. Suddenly, a breeze blew across the screen. As a creepy shadow slowly appeared, the homeowner's eyes became vacant. Hearing noises from upstairs, everyone rushed to the monitoring room. The bald man, blindfolded, smashed the screen. They then realized the homeowner had stopped breathing. Fear and despair surged in their hearts. They never expected that even through a screen, they could be affected by spirits. But this wasn't the worst part. As they were about to eat, they realized their food was running out. It seemed inevitable that they would have to go out to find supplies. Xiao Peng used to be a supermarket clerk. He said that when the disaster first struck, the boss immediately closed the supermarket. The supplies there must be plentiful, but the problem is how to get there. Jack, the black guy, came up with an idea to cover the car windows with newspaper and paint. Although they couldn't see the road, they could use the GPS for directions and the car's radar to avoid obstacles. Everyone in the car moved forward cautiously, feeling the bumps but choosing to ignore them, as there was a high chance that there was a corpse under the wheels. Suddenly, the car's front and rear sensors started going off wildly. A huge dark shadow swept over the roof. Depeng was the first to break down. It was clear that a spirit was attacking. Jack knew they couldn't wait any longer. After confirming the supermarket's location, he floored the gas pedal and sped forward until he hit an obstacle and stopped. Everyone got out of the car blindfolded, one by one, and finally, they safely reached the inside of the supermarket. Seeing the shelves filled with a variety of supplies, everyone couldn't help but gasp in amazement. No matter what, this adventure was worth it. The bald man leisurely holds a beer, marveling that the food here is enough to last a year. Why risk going back? Before anyone could respond, a rapid knocking is heard. It turns out a man is outside urgently calling for help. Depeng recognized it was his colleague. Jack relaxed and Anna suddenly sensed something was wrong. The bird in the cage became agitated. But it was too late for Jack to close the door. The man tried to force his way in. In a critical moment, Depeng roared and used his body to push the man out. They shouted his name, but all that responded was the sight of blood. Not long after, the man's cries for help were heard again outside the door. The eerie scene made everyone uneasy because the man had never worn a blindfold, yet was still alive. They quickly packed up their supplies and used the previous method to return to the cabin. Anna brought back a small bird from the supermarket, believing it could sense the presence of spirits. While everyone was trying to guard against this mysterious force, they overlooked the terrifying nature of humanity in the apocalypse. A couple secretly drove away with a car while everyone was asleep, leaving the group without their only means to find supplies. Once again, they fell into deep despair. To make matters worse, the pregnant woman unexpectedly opened the door and let a stranger in. The group quickly subdued him after hearing the commotion. There's no time to scold the foolish fat sister now. Under continuous questioning, they learned that the bearded man's situation was even worse than theirs. He had been hiding at home when a group of robbers broke in. These people claimed to be followers of spirits and could open their eyes outdoors. The bearded man escaped while they forced his family to close their eyes. But the bald man didn't care about any of that. This isn't a charity. He forcefully made the bearded man leave. Just as he finished speaking, a vase suddenly hit his head. Unexpectedly, someone was kind enough to take in the bearded man and locked the bald man in the garage instead. Sister Pang felt very guilty about this. She knew what it felt like to be locked outside, which is why she impulsively let the bearded man in. She made Anna promise that if anything happened to her, she would take care of her child, as today was the day Sister Pang was due to give birth. However, what no one expected, Anna's child was also born today. Amidst the chaos, the bearded man turned on the music, put Anna's 2 birds in the fridge, tore the newspaper off the window, and locked the bald man in the garage. Sensing something was wrong, he quickly warned Jack. But just as Jack took out the bird, he was knocked out by the bearded man. The bearded man then slowly walked towards the bald man and used a remote to open the garage door. The bald man closed his eyes in fear, while the bearded man greedily gazed outside. It turns out he was the legendary spirit believer. At this moment, Anna and the chubby lady successfully gave birth. But before they could celebrate, the bearded man walked straight into the room and hastily tore off the newspaper from the window. Anna quickly turned her head, but the chubby lady was a bit slower. After seeing the scene outside, she lost control of her body and rushed straight out. The desperate woman tried to fight the bearded man, but was overpowered and quickly killed. While Anna hid under the blanket, trembling, a bald man charged in with a long gun. Unfortunately, he couldn't open his eyes and fired wildly based on instinct. The bearded man seized the opportunity, leaped, and tackled him to the ground, finishing him off with scissors. At this moment, Jack happened to wake up from his coma. Instinctively, he reached for the rifle not far away. Anna, who was under the blanket, quickly heard a gunshot and then felt someone approaching. When the blanket was lifted, Jack's face appeared. He had finally killed the bearded man, ending this disaster. 5 years later, Anna and Fat Sister's child has grown up. She and Jack support each other and have long adapted to the unseen world. That day, while Anna was out searching for supplies, she heard the roar of a car engine nearby. She immediately rushed home to share her suspicions with Jack. Those people clearly weren't wearing blindfolds. They must be followers of the bearded man, likely spirits. Their mission is probably to hunt down any survivors. Coincidentally, that night, a signal suddenly came through the walkie-talkie. The other party said they had built a safe shelter. Jack calculated the distance and found that it would take only 2 days by water to reach it. However, they had to pass through a dangerous rapid. Anna thought it might be a trap, leading to a heated argument. In the end, Jack managed to convince Anna. But just as they packed their bags and were ready to leave, the group of spirit believers showed up. Jack told Anna to take the kids and escape through the back door, while he decided to confront them to buy some time. These people had clearly hunted down many survivors and even carried hooks specifically for removing eye patches. Realizing the danger, Jack immediately fired back, but he was outnumbered. Relying solely on sound to locate them was futile. So he took off his eye patch and managed to shoot down 2 more. A gentle breeze blew, and Jack's gaze became unfocused. However, he didn't take his own life. Instead, with sheer determination, he killed the last follower before finally turning the gun on himself. Anna knew Jack would never return, but she had to continue with her life and raise their 2 children. After a quick preparation, Anna decided to take them to the shelter mentioned in the walkie-talkie. Following her vague memories, she found the pre-prepared boat. The family of 3 continued down the river. Along the way, they encountered spirit believers and unexpectedly hit obstacles in the river. But Anna managed to overcome them all with courage and luck. She didn't dare to think about how much longer she could hold on. The dual pressures on her body and mind were almost suffocating. However, the real crisis was just beginning. Anna clearly noticed the water flow accelerating, indicating that the rapids were not far ahead. The boat would not only rock violently, but might also crash into rocks protruding from the water. To pass through safely, someone had to keep their eyes open and guide the way. This person can only choose between the 2 children. If something happens to Anna, all 3 of them will be doomed. The woman is extremely conflicted. The boy is Anna's biological child, while the girl is the orphan child of Fat Sister. In a dilemma, Anna ultimately decides to take a risk. She doesn't remove anyone's blindfold, but lets the boat drift downstream, silently praying. But Anna underestimated the power of nature. Their boat, like a drifting leaf, was quickly overturned by the rushing river. Anna swam to the surface, shouting her child's name. Fortunately, the boy was near a rock, and the girl was washed up on the downstream riverbank. Miraculously, the family of 3 survived the deadly crisis. However, the journey ahead remains quite challenging. Anna has never traveled this path before and can only rely on the hints from the walkie-talkie, following the bird calls to navigate through the darkness. To make matters worse, Anna and the others constantly hear the voice of the deceased Jack, urging them to remove their blindfolds and join him. The woman knows this is a trick from the spirits. With strong willpower, she keeps moving forward with the children. Finally, they arrive. The wooden door described in the walkie-talkie opens as Anna keeps calling for help. Finally, the door of hope opens. Someone checks Anna and her group's eyes to confirm they are not spirit followers, then tells them they can remove their blindfolds. Anna looked around in shock, realizing this was a school for the blind. The open areas were covered with greenery, and many birds were flying overhead. Survivors gathered here, living a leisurely life just like before the disaster. That's all for Bird Box. Indeed, some things are only appreciated once they're lost. What seems like an ordinary life might be a dream many yearn for.